President Donald Trump is weighing the possibility of the U.S. joining the conflict between Israel and Iran. In an exchange with reporters at the White House, President Trump said he may or may not order a U.S. strike on Iran. Joining us now to speak more on the possibility of the U.S. joining the conflict is Frank Rose. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State and a nuclear weapons and missile defense expert. Frank, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
So let's go ahead and talk about whether or not you think it's likely the U.S. will get involved in this conflict. And if that is the case, what would that even look like?
Yeah, well, Robert, what I would say is it's increasingly looking like the United States may get involved. We've had several statements from President Trump in the past couple of days. Furthermore, we see numerous U.S. forces flowing into the region to include the U.S. Aircraft carrier Nimitz coming from the Pacific. Now, if the United States were to get involved, what I think would most likely happen is you would see the United States using B-2 bombers armed with massive ordnance penetrator bombs or GBU-57 bombs to take out the deeply buried targets at Fordo. That's where Iran is enriching uranium.
Right. And talk about the arsenal. You spend a lot of time in this region. Why would Israel need the U.S. to get involved? Does it not have bombs capable of doing that?
Well, Israel does have bunker buster bombs, but probably not powerful enough to go after deeply buried targets like those at Fordo. However, the United States does. But the problem is the United States is the only country who has this 30,000 pound massive penetrator, and only one aircraft can carry that. That's the B-2 bomber. The Israelis do not have an aircraft capable of carrying the GBU-57 bomb. So to make sure that you are able to take out that plant at Fordow, you probably need the United States to be involved.
I see. There's been a lot of talk about Iran being close to a nuclear missile for decades now. Recently, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and President Trump were at odds over the status of Iran's nuclear program. Gabbard testified before Congress in March that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, but Trump dismissed her comments, saying that he doesn't care what she said and that Iran is very close. How should we look at these opposing claims, and is Iran close?
Well, we don't know how close they are to an actual weapon. The U.S. intelligence community has said the Iranians have stopped their efforts on building a bomb. But that's not the key point. The key point is Iran has continued to insist that it has the right to enrich uranium. And the big concern that the Israelis have is as long as the Iranians have mastered the fuel cycle and can enrich uranium, at some point in the future, they could produce a nuclear weapon. So, in essence, though they are not actually making a bomb today, they are putting in place all of the building blocks. So in the future, should they make a political decision to build the bomb, they could do it. So in essence, they have a virtual nuclear weapons capability.
Right, and these are attempts to stop them in their tracks. Frank Rose, we could talk about this forever. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for your insight today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.